So today we're going to be modelling a torch, or if you're American, a flashlight. The one that we're going to be trying to use as our source image is this particular torch here. Reason being, I've looked for about 1,000 pictures of torches, and I feel that this one's probably more within your reach at the minute. And I think it's got enough difficulty, it's got enough new challenge without it being impossible. Do I expect you to completely mimic this torch at this stage of your level of Maya? No, I don't. However, if you can get as close as you can to this, I think it's going to be a really big win. So there's a few things here that you're going to be able to do straight away. You learned in the last lesson with the chair and table how to extrude. You know how to resize, how to move things around. So in this video, I'm not going to go from start to finish modelling this flashlight. However, I'm just going to teach you a few new skills that I think you're going to need. The rest is about you playing around with it and trying to get it as close as possible. So what you need to do is keep this image downloaded and nearby and refer to it regularly. So hopefully you'd already worked out that the polygonal shape that we need to work from today is going to be a cylinder, because obviously it's the nearest one to this particular shape that we can work with. So let's go ahead and add a cylinder, and I'm going to need to rotate this sort of to lay it flat. And I'm going to do all this, like I said, very quickly, really, to set up, just because I'm going to show you just some of the skills that you don't already know. Alright, so bring this up and just resize it for the purpose of this video. Okay, so I've got a kind of long cylindrical shape. Alright, so let's tackle some things to start with that you may not know already. Now, with all of these standard polygonal shapes, there's just one edge here, and it looks quite harsh. So if you ever want to smooth off an edge, what you need to do is what we call bevel that edge. And what that'll do is it'll add more lines or more edges into this particular piece here, and it will slowly slope those off. So if we hold down right click and we move from object mode to edge mode, if we find one piece of this edge and we double click, then of course select the whole edge around the circle here. And what we need to do is go to edit mesh and bevel. You'll notice there's also a hotkey of Control B for this as well. So if we now click bevel, you can see it's quite harsh at this minute in time, and you can basically play around with the settings here until you're happy with basically how it looks, really, to put it bluntly with you. One thing I'll note here, there's a little kind of pie chart. The more of the pie chart that's blue, the more dramatic the changes are when you move this up and down. So if it's too fierce, has too much impact, then just knock that down. Okay, and you'll, like I said, you'll have more control over the particular piece. Okay, you can drag these, click and drag these, or you can literally obviously type in and put them in. But that's how we bevel. Okay, and it puts a smoother edge onto things. If you compare this one to that, okay, this one's obviously been beveled, this one hasn't. Now, with the torch that we're trying to make, so we've gone through beveling. With the torch, there's going to be certain ends that are going to be bigger than others in here, wider, extra pieces, the actual sort of flashlight piece. If we look at this a minute, we've only got edges running along this way, we don't have any running along that way. So in the last lesson you learned how to add edge loops, and that's what you'll need to do here. You'll need to add loops across this way in order to take sections of this and make a change. So if we add an edge loop, now remember on the top right up here, second in over where I'm hovering my mouse at the minute, we can change the edge loop tool to either add multiple, or I can just go for relative distance from edge. Relative distance from edge is nice because when I go to click here, it gives me a demo, but then I can click and drag until where I want to let it go. So, you know, where do I want the torch end to go? Let's just say here in particular. Okay, great. So now this is separating this piece from the rest of this geometry here. That then allows me, if I right click and go to edge, I can take this edge, I'm silly enough and go back to my selection tool, and I now can resize this, for instance. So all I've done there is I've gone to my resize tool, I've gone to the middle of the shape, I've dragged this up a little bit, okay, to try to get an end to that. Alright, and I can also, you know, by just, instead of using resize, using move, I could move this edge loop to sort of change how much of a dramatic sort of slope it makes on that change there. Okay, so we're starting to get the end of the torch now. And if you wanted to make that even more dramatic, you could add more loops in. And you could, you know, move these around to give yourself the desired kind of effect, however you want it to look. Okay? Okay, so after this, thinking about what the next thing you're going to need to know is that if we look at the flashlight, the lens piece there is actually sunk in a little bit deeper. Okay. The way we do that is that by now, obviously, you know how to extrude a piece. Hopefully, you remembered from the chair session that we could just take a face and we could do Control E and we can move that up and down. Now it's easy because it's got 4 sides. It's a polygon. Okay, this does have 4 sides, but they're not currently within a kind of circle that we need to push back, to put it bluntly. So what I need to do is, with the selection tool, I need to obviously make sure I've right clicked, gone to face. I need to select a face, hold down shift and select them all. This next step, by the way, you can easily make a mistake. There are 2 different connects, and you want to go to edit mesh and connect. This is then going to put a nice ring down here. Now if I go right click, edge, okay, I can now, using the R tool to size, I can now move where I want that to be. And what you'll need to think of is how thick do you want the lip of this bit to be. Okay, so if I'm happy enough of it there, then obviously I go back to face, go back to my selection tool, and I'm going to select all the faces in this particular piece here, and then I'm going to go Control E, and I'm going to start to set that back a little bit. Just going to have a look around. Yeah, it's a little bit deeper than I thought it was going to be. So something like this. But again, always go back to your image and go, okay, well, how much is it there? And I can offset that a little bit, just there's a little bit of sort of bend to it. I can add a few more divisions if I wanted to in there. And once I'm happy, yeah, I'll just go, yeah, okay, that's not too bad. Okay, at this particular point, it's not too bad at all. Now on here, the next bit, you'll notice there's some kind of like ridges here. Okay, some bits that are sort of stuck up. Now, the way I would do that is I would insert, so I'd get a section that I want those ridges to be in. Let's just say here, okay? Let's have another look at that particular one, and then what that has is loads across here, doesn't it, by the looks of it on this one. So what I'll now do with the same edge loop tool, I'm going to go multiple, and for the sake of this, I'm going to put 8 equal lines. Yeah, I'm reasonably happy with that. Now what I want to do is change my camera view, so it's hold down space, right click in the middle, and I'll go to probably front view. Looks okay. Alright, so with that, I'm going to right click, go to faces, click and drag across, which I can do this time, okay, because in here I want both sides of this. Okay, normally we would never do this because sometimes we only want specific ones, but I'm just going to check I've got them all. Yeah, okay, that's good. So I'm going to extrude, but this time I don't want to keep faces on. Okay, and I'll change the offset. Now you'll see here, see how that's kind of pushing this up to kind of give it a like kind of, I don't know, gem style effect. That's done with the offset. Now you'll see that that edge is still highlighted. If we extrude again, I can raise the thickness, and it gives me this nice kind of textured effect. And you can go through the settings however you're happy with that, but that's not a million miles away from being this with a bit of fine tuning. I'm doing this quickly just for the video so you know the techniques of how to do them. We're starting to get this kind of effect now that we're looking for. Now on here you'll notice there's some ridges that are pushed in. Well, hopefully by now that should be pretty obvious how to do. I just need to go to my mesh tools, insert edge loop, I make sure I'm off of multi because I was last time, and let's just say I want to push a little bit in. Okay, I'll just find a small bit like that, and what I would then do is select all those faces, make sure I come off the edge loop tool, which is always something that I sometimes forget to do. Select those edges by dragging across. This might take a couple of goes. And then just basically extrude them in, is what you want to do. Alright, so make sure that's selected. Yeah, always looks good, this looks okay, and then, you know, just bring that in, pull the thickness in. And then you can see that's pulled that particular bit in there, and we're starting to get towards this. Now my last bit that I'm going to show you is see how these have got kind of notches taken out of them. Now you could do that really precisely by adding extra lines and pulling some lines back. So you know, if I went to edit mesh, insert another edge loop kind of here, I could go to an edge, this particular one here, and I could pull that back a little bit. Another thing you could do is get another object like a sphere, resize it to how you want it to be, bring it under where you want it to make an impression. I'm doing this very basically and crudely, alright, and I wouldn't expect you to do the same, but just to show you. And what you can do with the shape is, if you make sure you're in object mode, click the first object, hold shift, click the second object, and we get a mesh, booleans, difference. It will cut that little piece of the sphere out and give you somewhere near this kind of mark that you were looking for. See that in there. Now again, that's quite crude because I've done that very quickly, but you should be able to process that in there better than me. Okay. For my last point on this particular side of the image, we can't see the button. Now, the button may well be at the back, but I would like it in this model to be at the top because I think it's going to look nicer when it's in the game. So if we can go to top view, alright, this is the top, let's select that. You want to find an area to basically put a button in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find an area here. Now at the minute I don't want to raise the whole length of this, so I'm going to add multi-edge loop multiple times. I'm going to put 6 loops in there and hope that's okay. Yeah, that's not too bad. So I know I'm dead at the top right now. That's important why it's to change views and not do perspective. Okay, I'm going to go to faces, and what I'll do is I'll select an area, something like this. I'll extrude it, change the perspective view so that I can see what's happening. Pull that up. So I've got an area to put my button on, and then what I could then do is to get an actual button, I could get a sphere, go to faces, find roughly half, delete, and then move that half sphere over the top of there as a little button. Okay, it's something I could then do. Move that along, drop it, resize it, hopefully you get the picture, and then put that on top of there. Alright, so hopefully that's all the new skills you're going to need in order to do this. All the best, good luck.